Snow was falling hard that evening, thick enough to blur the city lights and soften the sound of passing cars. Alexander Hale, a wealthy CEO known more for his icy confidence than for his smile, had just stepped out of his black SUV when he saw something small moving near his front gate. At first, he thought it was just another delivery package dropped in the wrong place. But as he approached, the package lifted its head, and it was a little girl. No older than 3. Blonde hair dusted with snow. Pink cheeks trembling from the cold. And in her tiny hand, an old stuffed bunny. "Sir, please," she whispered, her voice cracking as she tugged on his coat sleeve. "Don't let my mommy die." That was the moment Alexander's entire world stopped. Before we continue, if you love heart-touching stories about real human kindness, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Your support helps us share more stories like this every day on Kindness Diaries. Now, let's. Alexander knelt down slowly, unsure if he was seeing things. He had spent years living behind gates, security teams, and a schedule that left no room for anything human. But nothing prepared him for the sight of a frightened child standing alone in the freezing night. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She swallowed hard. Lila pointed toward a car parked a little crookedly near his driveway. That's when Alexander noticed the fogged windows, and a woman slumped over the steering wheel. His heartbeat kicked into high gear. He scooped Lila into his arms and rushed to the car. The moment he opened the door, cold air rushed in, and he found the woman barely conscious, her breath shallow, her skin pale. She had been trying to keep the engine running for warmth, but it must have died hours ago. Alexander wasn't a man used to panic. But something inside him, something long buried, sparked to life. He called 911, his voice shaking, then grabbed a blanket from his SUV and wrapped the woman tightly. Lila clung to his coat the entire time, refusing to let go, as if he were her only hope left in the world. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics worked quickly. "Severe pneumonia," one of them said. If she had stayed out here much longer. Alexander didn't let him finish. He rode in the ambulance with them, holding Lila close, promising silently that he wouldn't leave. At the hospital, doctors rushed the woman, whose name was Emily, into emergency care. And for the first time in a very long time, Alexander sat in a waiting room, not surrounded by assistants or lawyers, but by the hum of machines, the smell of disinfectant, and the weight of a little girl's head resting on his shoulder. Hours passed. Lila eventually fell asleep. Alexander found himself brushing her hair away from her face, something he hadn't done for anyone since his own daughter had died 10 years ago in a tragic accident. His marriage had collapsed soon after, and work became his entire world, a shield he never expected to lay down. But tonight, that shield cracked. When a nurse finally approached, Alexander braced himself. "She's stable," the nurse said softly. "But she'll need rest, and she's worried about her daughter." Alexander exhaled, so deeply it felt like he had been holding his breath for years. He carried Lila to Emily's room. The moment the little girl saw her mother awake, she scrambled out of his arms and ran to her bedside. Emily, weak but smiling, mouthed a thank you as tears rolled down her cheeks. Alexander stayed for hours, helping, asking questions, even bringing food. Emily explained that she had lost her job months ago. Their landlord evicted them 2 weeks before Christmas. With nowhere to go, she tried sleeping in her car while searching for work, but she got sick, and everything spiraled. "I didn't want to ask anyone for help," she whispered. "I didn't want Lila to see me as a failure." Alexander sat there quietly, his heart heavy. He had spent years thinking that wealth kept people from suffering. But here, right in front of him, was a reminder that sometimes life broke people in ways money couldn't fix. "Emily," he said gently, "you're not a failure. You're a mother. And mothers do whatever they can to keep their children safe." What happened next surprised even him. Alexander made a call, one that would change their lives. He arranged for Emily's hospital bill to be paid in full. Then he called his head of HR and asked them to schedule a job interview for her at his company's community outreach department. "And for now," he added, "make sure she and her daughter have a warm place to stay." When Emily overheard, her eyes widened with disbelief. "Why would you do all this?" she choked out. Alexander hesitated. His voice came out quieter than he intended. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. And I promised myself, if I ever had the chance to do the same for someone else, I would. Over the next several days, Alexander visited Emily and Lila regularly. They ate meals together, laughed together, and slowly, he found himself feeling connected. For the first time in a decade, he felt like part of something that wasn't measured in profits or deadlines. When Emily was discharged, Alexander personally drove them to a small apartment his company kept for families in crisis. He carried Lila's stuffed bunny, and she giggled whenever he pretended it was talking. "Mr. Alex," she said as they entered the apartment, "are you gonna disappear now?" He knelt down again, just like the first night. "Not unless you want me to." She shook her head fiercely and threw her tiny arms around his neck. And for the first time in years, Alexander cried. Emily eventually got the job. Lila started preschool. And Alexander? He didn't just help them. They helped him rediscover a part of himself he thought he had lost forever, the part that believed kindness had the power to heal even the deepest wounds. In a world that moves too fast, where people pass each other without looking up, a simple whisper from a child reminded a lonely man that kindness can change the course of a life. Sometimes, the most powerful acts of goodness come from moments we never expect. So today, as you go about your life, be the reason someone feels seen. Be the reason someone believes again. Kindness doesn't just change others, it changes us too.